Hi, I'm Martin Lopp from the University of Strathclyde, and this is the second video supporting the web app development class at Strathclyde. In the previous video, we looked at setting up Devweb. In this video, we'll look at downloading and installing IntelliJ's IDEA Ultimate. We're going to create a static web project. We're going to run our first HTML locally. We're then going to set up an SFTP link so that our files are automatically uploaded to Devweb. We'll run our first HTML and first PHP remotely using Devweb. Okay, and all the testing will be in Chrome. Okay, first of all, the downloading is a bit tricky because it's license-based, so you have to register at that URL, which is also in the notes below the video. Once your account's set up, you'll download, so the registration looks like that. You say you're a teacher, your name, your Strathclyde email address, and just follow it through. It then sends you a confirmation email. Oops, once your account's set up, you download IntelliJ IDEA Ultimate. This link here appears underneath, and you also want to download the activation code, which is a text file with a big long code in it. Okay. Run the installer once it's downloaded and install the activation code in a window like that. Okay, once that's done, you start the real installer for IntelliJ. You're asked about plugins. The default is that they're all on. You can just leave it as all on. If you're a bit tight for space, you might want to remove stuff that you don't care about. There's lots of features in there. The next screen asks about plugins. You can just leave it empty. We don't need any for this module, but for the mobile app development, or for even later in this module, you might want to play with Node.js or Angular. So you could install them if you want, but you can always do it later. Then, once we're in, what we have to do is create a new static web project. We're going to test it locally and add the configuration to upload it to Devweb. Okay, so over to IntelliJ. Very simple, you create a new project, it asks you what you want to do. You can do Java, you can do Android, you can do lots of things. We're going to do static web, and we're just going to do static web, static web. You hit next, it asks you for a name of the project. This is WAD-S-1-2. Okay. It's a good idea to have a different directory for each of your projects. So throughout the course, we're going to have assessments. It's a good idea to have a separate project and a separate directory for each one, just to keep things tidy. Set your location where you store them. I actually store them on Dropbox, which works really cool, as long as you remember to give your PC time to sync. It runs. First time is a bit slow. I've run it before, so it's a bit quicker for me. It indexes your project, and you eventually see a screen like this. Very like any development environment you've used, probably. List of the projects here, see your files, and a big area for editing files. What I want to do here is create a new HTML file. I'm going to call it index. And by default, it gives you an HTML5 template. So we've got a simple HTML5 document. I can add a paragraph in here saying hello world. Okay. Save that. And then over here we've got a little hovering thing that allows us to run locally in the main browsers. If I click on Chrome, that opens that page up locally. It says hello world exclamation. Just to prove it, bing bing, and again, bing bing. Okay, cool. That's easy. That's our first project, our first HTML file. Now what we want to do is get that onto Devweb so that we run the files there. If you go to the Tools menu, under Deployment, Configuration, it's a bit tricky the first time, gets easier after time. Hit plus. The name is just Cafe, and it's SFTP, that's just your own name. Okay. In here, we get a big details page, so we fill in cafe.cis.strath.ac.uk, cafe CIS Strath AC UK, port 22 is the default, username your username obviously. Password, good idea to ask it to save it, but only if you're on a secure computer. Once you've filled in that amount of detail, you can test the connection. Hopefully I got my password right. Yep, that's cool. We can then click the wee dots and that will list all the directories from the root of the server. So you've got to find your home directory. If you go into Unix and you do a pwd, it will tell you. Otherwise, go into home and then try and find yourself. Okay, students, I'm staff, so I'm actually under S4. So it's WAD-S-1-2. Easiest way to do this, as I say, is to start with the Unix and do a pwd and it shows you your path. So once I get to me, I open my username up. You can't open other people's, so there's no point trying. Just get a security error. Then I go to Devweb. Then I click 2017, and that's a good path. Or you could just type that in there if you know your path. Okay, but it's handy to do it with this because you just know you're getting it right. So that's how I set up the path for Devweb. Okay, so it knows to log in here. It knows the root of our Devweb directory is 2017 directory. It knows our username and password and stuff. It also needs to know where the files go from the browser side. Okay, so there's a different path there. So back up here, this is where we visited last time, if you remember. So Devweb 2017 CIS Strath AC UK /tilde, my username. We copy that in here. Okay, then that's where the browser will go looking for files that are in this directory. Okay, it's just tying everything together. Hit OK there. Then actually, there's something else we had to do. Go to configurations, you have to do mappings, and the local path for this project is that. The deployment path on Cafe, we want it to go to, it's normal in Unix to use lowercase and web browser, so we'll just do that. Okay, so just put WAD test there, and that's the mappings for this project. Okay, so we hit OK with that. Now we right click on index.html and we can do upload to Cafe. Says it's complete, everything's worked out, cool. Go back over here and that URL we pasted in, oops, pasted at the end of that. Waity, hello world, yay! So that's our file uploaded to Cafe. On the Tools menu, you'll also want to do under Deployment Automatic Upload. Okay, and now if I do any editing to this, I hit save, you can see download, it's automatically uploading it. Flick over to the browser, hit refresh, we've got it there. So IntelliJ is now saving our files over to Devweb. That's cool. So what have we got to do? Oops, back. Test it locally, add a configuration and upload it to Devweb. Back to the beginning. We want to add some PHP as well. So back to here, I'm going to right click here and do new and add a PHP file, but it isn't there. Right. The default installation of IntelliJ doesn't come with PHP installed, so we've got to add a plugin. So we go to settings, plugins. Okay, there might be a big list of stuff here. You go down to plugins. If we search here for PHP, we see that nothing's installed. There's AspectJ, which is some elements support, obviously. We go down to install JetBeans plugin. We can search for PHP here, which I've done already. And it gives you a big list of them. So you just type PHP here, finds you in plugins. The most popular one is this one, which is good. That's PHP from JetBeans. Okay, it's PHP Storm installation. We'll install that. Yep, and then we've got to restart the development environment. Ding, dong. All this is done for you at Strathclyde. This is only for setting up at home. at Strathclyde, this is all good and ready to go, and you should have PHP Storm installed already. Once this is back up, it should run our project again, and we should be able to add some PHP. So PHP is a programming language, and the point of PHP is to produce HTML. So we can actually start with a PHP file that's the same HTML, but then we can add dynamic content to it that's served from the server. Good idea with IntelliJ just to wait until it's finished indexing everything. So once it's indexed, finish scanning files, we're ready to go. So right click here, do new, PHP file. I'm going to call that test. Okay. So PHP files start with this, which says that what's coming is PHP, but they are actually HTML files. So we can just copy that over and that will work. And what happens is the server goes looking for bits of PHP in the HTML file, and until it finds that special tag, it just spits it out as HTML. So just as a quick test that this is working, we can save that to the server, go over here, just at the end of our URL, add test.php, and it shows the same stuff. And just to prove it, this is the PHP file. Boom. Save, refresh, back. Okay, so what can you do in PHP? You can do lots in PHP. It's a full-blown programming language, but its job is to spit out HTML. Okay, so you start with angle bracket quote PHP, and then you finish it with question mark angle bracket. Okay, and whatever's in here is PHP. Okay. And you can just do echo, this is a test. Okay. Echo is the equivalent of system.out.println in Java. Okay. Save that, refresh, and it says this is a test. But the interesting thing is, if you look at the view page source, you don't see the PHP, you only see the text that it's produced. Okay. So we can also go looking for more interesting things, like we can show the date. So if I search for PHP date, date is a manual. This is a php.net, which is the manual for PHP, and it's awesome manual pages. It gives you formal definition of the function, the parameters, but most useful usually is down the bottom. You've got like a chat forum where people post different solutions to things and different code. So here's a pile of examples of date formatting. Okay, so we maybe want to print out a nice date. So we'll copy that, paste it in here, and what we're doing is we're echoing the result of the function date, which, and IntelliJ has been intelligent here, and it's showing us that this constant parameter is actually the format. Okay, so it's in this format. If you want to know what that is, you can read all the details on this page. Okay, but I save that, back to my browser, back to the page, refresh the PHP, now it tells me the date. Okay, exciting stuff. But that's PHP code running on the server, producing text, in this case, which is getting included in an HTML file and sent back to the browser. Okay. Browser doesn't know anything about PHP, it's the server that's doing it all. Okay, so that's us. We've now got our first HTML working, we've got our first PHP working, we've tested it all in Chrome. In the next video, we'll look at doing our proper first example of HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. Cheers.